Picture a massive bank vault,
Yeah.
right? Just close your eyes and imagine it.
Okay, I'm picturing it. Like a movie scene.
Exactly. The heavy steel door swings open, and inside it's just perfectly stacked gold bars, bundles of crisp cash, maybe a digital readout of some offshore account balance.
The dream.
Right. Society points at that room and says, there it is. That is wealth. That's the finish line.
Yeah, the ultimate goal.
But, and this is where it gets crazy, according to the really deeply fascinating material we're diving into today, if you are sitting inside that vault, counting those gold bars, you might actually be entirely bankrupt.
Which is just a wild concept to wrap your head around.
Right. So welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are just completely destroying your definition of wealth.
And I mean, it is a radical destruction, too. We're pulling from a recorded live seminar today, and it features a pairing you would, frankly, almost never expect to see sharing a stage.
Oh, absolutely not. Such a weird combo.
Right. So on one side, you have Hao Ge. He's a highly successful finance and life management expert, basically the ultimate pragmatic capitalist.
Yeah. The money guy?
Exactly. And on the other side, you have Master Ru Heng, who is this wise, deeply respected Buddhist monk. So, the ultimate spiritual minimalist.
You'd really think they'd be at each other's throats within, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Capitalism versus Buddhism doesn't usually end in a nice, clean compromise.
Yeah. That's the obvious assumption.
Yep.
But instead of clashing, they actually end up converging on this incredibly profound framework.
But really, they actually agree.
They do. They basically strip away all the societal noise and realize that most of us think financial management is strictly about managing money. But their combined thesis argues that true wealth management is actually about managing scarce resources.
Yeah?
And money is nowhere near the top of that scarcity list.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to redefine wealth, we have to start by completely dismantling how you, listening to this right now, understand money. And Howcat doesn't do this with, a complicated economic chart about inflation or GDP.
Thank goodness.
Right. No, he does it with a story about a 5-year-old girl in a convenience store.
Which, honestly, is the perfect laboratory for human psychology.
It really is.
Yeah.
So Howcat tells this story about taking his 5-year-old daughter to a convenience store in Taipei on this incredibly sweltering summer day.
Oh, Taipei in the summer is brutal.
Yeah, exactly. So they aren't even really there to shop. They're mostly just loitering to soak up the free air conditioning.
It's a smart move.
But while they're standing there in the cold air, he hands his daughter a single $10 coin. This is in new Taiwan dollars, by the way. And he tells her to go buy something.
Okay.
Now, think about the psychology of a 5-year-old here. She has absolutely no concept of what money actually is.
Right. Up until this point, she probably just points at things she wants, and her parents, magically acquire them for her.
Exactly. So she's looking at this little metal disc in her hand with just total blank confusion.
Because she doesn't see wealth. She sees a shiny, completely useless piece of metal. It has zero intrinsic value to her. I mean, she can't eat it. It doesn't make a fun noise. It isn't a toy.
Right, but she starts wandering the aisles anyway. She grabs a big bag of kwai kwai, which is this really popular puffed corn snack over there, and she hauls it up to the cashier.
And let me guess, $10 isn't enough.
Nope. The cashier smiles, shakes his head, and hands the snack back. $10 isn't enough, so she's totally confused. She goes back, puts it away, and grabs a pack of Oreos. Same thing. Rejected. And this happens 7 or 8 times with different items.
Just trial and error.
Yeah. Hauge's just standing in the corner, happily enjoying the AC, letting her figure out the boundaries of this metal disc on her own. Finally, she opens the refrigerated section and pulls out a tiny bottle of Yakult, the little yogurt drink.
Oh, I love those.
Right. And it costs $8. So she hands the cashier the drink and the $10 coin. The cashier takes the coin, hands her the drink, and then hands her back 2 $1 coins and change.
Okay, the transaction is complete.
Yeah, and Hao-jae notes that in that exact fraction of a second, his daughter's eyes suddenly lit up, like the realization just washed over her face.
That is the exact moment the illusion shatters. The reality of finance is born in her mind right then and there.
Exactly.
What Hao-jae points out to the audience is that money itself has absolutely no intrinsic value. It won't keep you warm at night. It won't cure disease. The daughter didn't care about the $10 coin. She cared about the Yakult.
Right. The coin only gained value the moment her brain realized it was, like a bridge between her current state and the thing she actually desired.
So financial management isn't really the management of cash. It's the management of, quote, things you want that are scarce.
Okay, I like that definition.
Yeah.
Things you want that are scarce.
Yeah, think about the mechanics of scarcity for a second. If you go back 40 years, bottling water and selling it would seem completely insane to most people
Oh, yeah, they'd laugh at you.
because clean water wasn't scarce. But today, you literally have companies selling purified air in cans in heavily polluted cities.
Really? Air in a can.
Yes, because clean air has become scarce in those places. Money is just the universal, agreed-upon lubricant we use to acquire those scarce things.
I hear that, but I have to jump in and argue for the person listening to this right now who is currently stressed about their bills.
Sure.
Because telling someone who is broke that money has no intrinsic value feels, I don't know, a bit out of touch, right?
Yeah.
Like if my rent is due on Friday and my bank account is at absolute zero, money is absolutely the most scarce resource in my universe.
It definitely feels that way.
It's like a video game where you're hoarding gold. Sure, the gold is technically useless unless you trade it for health potions or better armor to defeat the boss, but try fighting the boss without the armor. You need the gold first. It's the immediate bottleneck.
That is a very real, visceral reality, and it's exactly how our survival instincts condition us to think. When you're starving, the only thing you can focus on is food.
Right.
But Hauge and the monk are trying to pull us out of that reactive survival mode by introducing a hierarchy of wealth. And this is going to sound abrasive, but at the very bottom of this hierarchy, like the cheapest, least valuable resource you possess is money.
Wow. Okay, I can already hear people bristling at the word cheapest.
Oh, it is provocative, intentionally so.
Oh.
The author, Li Shalai, who is heavily referenced in the seminar, has this maxim: anything money can buy is cheap. Let's break down the underlying logic there. Why is it cheap? Because money is fundamentally infinite in the grand scheme of the universe, and more importantly, it is renewable for you.
Renewable, okay.
Yeah. If you lose every single dollar you have tomorrow, a mechanism exists for you to earn it back. It might require brutal labor, it might take a decade, but the possibility of regeneration is mathematically there.
Okay, I see the distinction. It's about renewability.
Yeah.
Because that logic forces you directly into the second tier of the hierarchy, which is time.
Exactly. Time is vastly more expensive than money because its defining characteristic is finitude. You just cannot buy more of it, no matter the exchange rate.
Yeah, there's no store for time.
Right. If you're a billionaire with a terminal illness, you cannot throw $1 billion at the universe to purchase a 25th hour in your day. When you spend a day, it is vaporized. You can never, ever earn it back.
Which completely exposes this massive corporate fallacy we all buy into, right? Time management.
Oh, don't get me started on time management.
There's an entire industry of productivity gurus selling us time management systems and planners and apps. But time doesn't negotiate with you. It doesn't care about your little planner.
No?
It just flows relentlessly at the exact same speed for everyone. You can't manage time. You can only allocate yourself within it.
And the problem with attempting to manage time is that it usually just devolves into stuffing more tasks into the exact same 24-hour container. That doesn't create wealth. It just creates organized burnout.
Organized burnout. That's a great way to phrase it. Hal User actually talks about his own corporate days where he would have 16 meetings scheduled back-to-back in a single day.
Oh, that sounds like a nightmare.
Right. He thought he was an absolute master of time management because his calendar was this perfectly color-coded game of Tetris.
We all know that guy.
Yeah. But he admits that by the second meeting, his brain was still replaying an argument from the first meeting. By the third meeting, he was having anxiety about being late to the fourth.
So he wasn't really there.
Exactly. He was physically sitting in the chair, but entirely useless.
And that failure of presence introduces the absolute, undisputed peak of the wealth hierarchy. The most valuable, scarce resource a human being will ever possess. Attention.
Attention. Let's dig into that because the seminar uses a phrase that honestly hit me right in the chest. Physical body is present, but the soul is absent.
It's a devastating diagnosis of modern life. If money is the gold in your video game and time is the duration of the level you are playing, attention is your actual focus on the screen.
Oh, I like that extension of the analogy.
Thanks. I mean, if you're looking away from the screen to check your phone, it doesn't matter how much gold you have or how much time is left on the clock. Your character is going to run off a cliff.
Yeah. Hauge shares this incredibly relatable, slightly embarrassing anecdote about this exact phenomenon. He's sitting at a coffee shop with his wife.
Okay.
They're supposedly spending quality time together. His wife finds a funny joke or a meme on her phone and forwards it to him, expecting him to read it, laugh, share a moment of connection.
A pretty normal couple interaction.
Right. But minutes go by, he doesn't react.
Yeah.
She leans over and sees that he isn't looking at her message at all. He is aggressively scrolling through pictures of running shoes he wants to buy.
Oh no. He was giving her his time, but his attention was completely captured by the running shoes.
Yes. And his wife calls him out immediately. She says, "This is what you do. You are here, but you aren't here."
That is the ultimate betrayal of our most valuable asset. We think we're being generous by giving someone an hour of our time. But if we withhold our attention during that hour, we're essentially handing them an empty wrapper.
Yeah, we kept the candy for ourselves. We gave them the lowest form of the resource.
Let's expand on the mechanics of attention for a second, because this really explains the entire modern economy.
How so?
Well, why are tech companies, social media platforms, streaming services the most valuable entities on the planet? They aren't trying to steal your money directly. They give you the product for free.
True.
What they are aggressively mining is your attention, because they understand a fundamental truth that most individuals just ignore. Where your attention goes, your reality is literally constructed.
Wow.
If you cannot control your attention, you have zero control over your relationships, your personal growth, or your wealth, regardless of what your bank account says.
Okay, so if we accept this hierarchy, money is cheap and renewable, time is finite and unmanageable, and attention is the ultimate currency. The obvious problem is that we still live in a capitalist reality.
Unfortunately, yes.
I can't pay my landlord in attention. I can't buy groceries with focus. So how do we convert this abstract philosophy into something that actually puts food on the table and builds a sustainable life?
That requires looking at how we deploy these resources into the market. The material breaks this down into what they call the 3 business models of time. It's essentially an audit of your life's mechanical output.
I really love this framework because it forces you to stop and ask, what game am I actually playing with my finite life?
Exactly. The first business model of time is the default setting for almost everyone: selling your time exactly once.
This is the traditional salary job, the hourly wage, the gig economy, right? You go to the office or the factory for 8 hours, you get paid a predetermined rate for those 8 hours. And when the day is done, that specific transaction is permanently closed. If you want more money to buy groceries next week, you have to sell another 8 hours.
And Howray is very careful to point out that there is nothing inherently shameful about this model. It provides necessary stability, and society honestly requires it to function.
Yeah, we need people doing those jobs.
However, the mathematics of Model 1 are brutal. Because your life is finite, your earning potential has a hard, unforgiving ceiling.
Right.
You can try to increase the hourly rate of your time by getting an advanced degree or fighting for a promotion, but you can never escape the fundamental limitation that you only have one physical body in 24 hours in a day.
So you were trapped in a 1-to-1 ratio of effort to reward. Which brings us to Model 2, where you sever that link entirely, selling your time multiple times.
This is where we introduce the concept of leverage, and leverage completely changes the math of a human life.
The classic example of this is writing a book, right? An author might spend 6 agonizing months of their time writing a manuscript. During those 6 months, they are basically in Model 1, putting in the hours.
Sweating over the keyboard.
Yeah. But once the book is published, that 6 months of time can be sold to 10 people, 1,000 people, or 1,000,000 people. Software developers do this when they write an app.
We are doing it right now.
Exactly. We're spending a couple of hours researching and recording this deep dive, but if 10,000 of you listen to it, we've essentially multiplied our single hour of effort into 10,000 hours of impact.
The psychology of transitioning from Model 1 to Model 2 is incredibly difficult, though.
Why is that?
Because if you're exhausted from working a 40-hour week in Model 1 just to survive, the idea of coming home and spending your weekends building a Model 2 asset, a book, a piece of code, a YouTube channel, it feels impossible because there is no immediate financial reward.
Yeah, you're working for free, essentially.
You're investing your time up front with zero guarantee of return. But when it works, you aren't losing out when you sell it at scale. You are infinitely expanding your life's footprint into other people's reality.
It's like planting an orchard instead of just foraging for today's apples.
That's a great way to put it.
But then there's Model 3, which is the holy grail of leverage, buying other people's time to sell.
Traditionally, this is the realm of the entrepreneur or the business owner. You take on the risk to purchase the time of people operating in Model 1. You hire employees or contractors.
Right.
You organize their time to create a product or service of greater value, and then you sell that value for a margin.
But the seminar updates this concept for the digital age in a way that just blew my mind.
Yeah.
How Jay explains the mechanism of virality as a form of Model 3.
Virality.
Yeah. Let's say I create a really insightful spreadsheet template for budgeting and I put it online for free. If someone downloads it, finds it useful, and retweets it or sends it to their 5 friends, they're literally giving me their time and their social capital to amplify my work.
Exactly. Think about the mechanics of distribution. If you want to reach 10,000 people, you usually have to buy advertising, which costs money.
Right.
Or you create something so undeniably valuable that the consumer feels compelled to share it. When they hit share, they are doing your marketing for you. You have effectively bought their effort, using the value of your creation as the currency to reach an audience you could never reach on your own.
So the goal is to ascend these models, to move from a 1-to-1 ratio to a 1-to-many ratio.
Mm.
But why? We aren't doing this just to hoard cash in that bank vault we talked about earlier.
Definitely not.
The seminar uses this brilliant metaphor to explain what we're actually trying to build. They describe life as a high-performance sports car. And to actually drive it and enjoy the ride, you need 4 functional wheels.
If even one of these wheels falls off, the car spins wildly out of control or grinds to a halt. And the first wheel, inevitably, is having money.
Right, so the monk and the capitalist actually agree here. We aren't living in a fantasy world. Money is the fuel. It's the baseline security that keeps the engine running and buys you out of daily survival panic.
But the second wheel is having free time. This is where so many highly successful Model 3 entrepreneurs crash their cars.
Oh, for sure.
If you have all the money in the world, $100 million in the bank, but you are forcibly working 16 hours a day and your blood pressure is through the roof, your sports car is permanently parked in the garage up on cinder blocks.
You can't even drive it.
Free time is the required space to rest, to let your mind wander, and to actually appreciate the life you are funding.
Then we have the third wheel, having good health. Hauge quotes a proverb in the seminar that I honestly can't stop thinking about. He says, "A healthy person has 1,000 dreams. A sick person only has one."
Oh, that is a brutal reality check.
Isn't it?
If the health wheel falls off, nothing else matters. It doesn't matter if your bank account is full and your calendar is empty. Chronic illness or failing health hijacks your attention, your most valuable resource, and forcibly centers it on your physical suffering. You cannot enjoy wealth if your body is in rebellion.
And finally, the fourth wheel, having good relationships.
To validate this, the source brings in the famous 86-year Harvard study of adult development. It is the longest-running study on human happiness ever conducted.
86 years.
Yeah. They tracked cohorts of men and eventually their spouses and children for over 8 decades. They measured everything: their wealth, their career titles, their cholesterol levels, their brain scans.
And when they looked at the people who thrived in their 80s, the single greatest predictor of happiness and longevity wasn't their 401k balance.
Nope.
It wasn't the prestige of their job title. It was the quality, the warmth, and the reliability of their relationships.
At the very end of life, when all the noise fades, relationships are the only thing that sustains us. If you arrive at the finish line in your shiny sports car, but the passenger seat is empty and there is absolutely no one cheering for you in the stands, the victory is incredibly hollow.
Yeah. The 4 wheels, money, free time, health, and relationships, they have to be inflated and balanced.
Okay, so if the goal is this perfectly balanced 4-wheeled sports car, the immediate question from you, the listener, is going to be, how do I afford this? I'm starting from scratch. I don't have a trust fund. I'm stuck in Model 1, working an hourly wage just to survive.
And this is where the seminar gets genuinely radical.
Yeah.
Because Hauge completely redefines what your net worth actually is.
This thought experiment is perhaps the most powerful paradigm shift in the entire dialogue.
It really is. Hauge asks the audience to imagine a guy who owns a spectacular, sprawling mansion on a hill worth $100 million.
So nice.
You drive by it and think, wow, high net worth. That guy has made it. But then you look at his ledger and find out he took out a $120 million loan to buy the land and build the house. Is his net worth high?
No, his net worth is negative $20 million.
Exactly. He is drowning in debt. The house is just a facade.
But then he strips away the financial mechanics and takes the thought experiment to an extreme, visceral level.
Okay, where do you go with it?
He asks the audience to imagine a scenario where a massive natural disaster occurs or a war breaks out. The power grid goes down, bank servers are wiped out, currency becomes meaningless paper, and that $100 million mansion is reduced to a pile of rubble.
The total reset.
In that absolute zero state, what is left? What is the actual unerasable asset?
The answer is you. Your physical, living, breathing brain and body. You are your ultimate asset.
Think about how this changes the starting line for someone who feels behind in life. If you are breathing, if you are capable of thought, learning, and action, your net worth is not zero. You are in possession of the most potent generative asset on the planet. The question completely shifts. It's no longer, how do I scramble to get more money? The question becomes, how do I strategically invest in this primary human asset to increase its yield?
Yes. And Hauge outlines 3 progressive investments you have to make into yourself to build this indestructible wealth. The first investment is storing knowledge.
But we need to clarify what knowledge means here, because it is not about passive consumption or building a library to look smart.
Right. Hauge tells this hilarious, totally relatable story about a young student who approaches him after a lecture. During the talk, Hauge had casually name-dropped a bunch of different books he found useful.
As one does.
Yeah, and this student comes up looking visibly distressed, holding a frantically scribbled list. He says, Hauge, I am a broke college student, and you just recommended 37 books. I can't afford to buy all these, and honestly, even if I could, I don't have the time to read them.
The student was falling into a common trap. He felt the pressure to hoard the physical books, as if the bound paper and ink themselves contained the wealth.
Exactly. And Hauge just laughs and stops him.
Yeah.
He says, please, do not go buy 37 books. You'll buy them. They'll sit on your nightstand mocking you. You'll feel massive guilt for not reading them, and it will actually drain your psychological energy.
That's so true. The pile of unread books, guilt is real.
It is. He tells the kid, if you want the knowledge, just go look up a 10-minute summary on YouTube or listen to a podcast that breaks down the main ideas. Storing knowledge only counts if it actually updates your mental models.
It's about changing the lens through which you view the world.
Yes. If you listen to a single 5-minute audio clip that permanently changes how you handle conflict with your spouse, that is a massive high-yield deposit into your knowledge account. Reading 300 pages and changing nothing is a zero-yield investment.
Which is the perfect bridge to the second, much more difficult investment, storing ability.
This is the transition from knowing to doing.
Yeah.
And it's where most people fail.
There is a famous, incredibly stark analogy that Hauge brings up here. If you ask people where the wealthiest place on the planet is, they'll usually guess Wall Street, or the diamond mines of South Africa, or the oil fields of the Middle East.
Makes sense.
But the richest place on Earth is actually the local graveyard.
Because underneath the dirt are all the unwritten novels, the unlaunched businesses, the unsung songs, the brilliant inventions that were never prototyped.
It's dark, but
All those ideas stayed safely locked inside people's heads because they never took the risk to convert their stored knowledge into actual messy ability in the real world.
to use physics terms, knowledge is just potential energy. A boulder sitting at the top of a hill. Ability is kinetic energy. It's the boulder rolling down the hill, smashing through obstacles.
I love that visual.
You only get paid in this life, in money, in respect, in personal growth, for the kinetic energy you put out into the market. You have to take the knowledge you stored and force it through the highly uncomfortable, friction-filled process of taking action.
And when you do that, when you take action and actually create value for someone else, you unlock the third and most profound investment, storing hearts.
Notice the specific phrasing there. It is not storing business cards or storing LinkedIn connections. It is storing hearts.
It completely flips the traditional sleazy idea of networking. When most of us hear networking, we imagine like putting on a suit, going to a corporate mixer, handing out 50 business cards and scanning the room to figure out who can help us get a promotion.
Right, it's entirely extractive.
But Haugar argues that true human capital is measured by how many people you have actively helped without demanding an immediate return.
When you use your stored ability to solve a genuine problem for someone else, you are making a direct deposit of value into their life. It is a profound shift from a scarcity mindset where you think wealth is a pie and you have to steal a slice to an abundance mindset where you are basically baking new pies for people.
Baking new pies.
Yeah.
That's good.
And human beings, from an evolutionary standpoint, are deeply biologically wired for reciprocity. When you help someone when they're down, you store goodwill, trust, and mutual support in their heart. That creates a decentralized bank account of human connection that no stock market crash can ever wipe out.
Okay, so the formula is elegant. You acquire knowledge to update your mental models, you bravely practice to turn it into an ability, and you use that ability to help others, which builds your network of stored hearts.
That's the blueprint.
I love it.
Okay.
I have to channel the listener right now because I know exactly what the roadblock is. I feel it too.
The sphere of execution.
Exactly. I'm sitting here thinking, this theory is beautiful, but what if I am completely paralyzed by perfectionism? How do I start storing ability and taking messy action when I am deeply terrified of looking stupid?
Oh, it's a huge hurdle.
Right. I have this idea for a project, a podcast, a side hustle, whatever, but my brain tells me I can't launch it until the website is perfect, the logo is perfect, and I know exactly what I'm doing.
This is the invisible psychological wall that keeps 90% of people trapped in that graveyard of unexecuted ideas we just talked about. It's the fear that our kinetic energy will be clumsy, awkward, and publicly judged.
So how do we smash that wall? Helge shares two highly personal, very funny stories from his own life that perfectly illustrate how to conquer this paralysis. The first one is about his own painful journey into podcasting.
This is a masterclass in the friction between planning and doing.
So it's mid-2020. Helge and a small team decide they're going to launch a highly produced podcast at the intersection of music and finance. They have ambition, they have a budget, they have a vision. So what is their first step? They spend 6 entire months planning.
Half a year of just talking about the thing they want to do.
They are completely paralyzed by the illusion of preparation. They're debating microphone brands, agonizing over the cover art font, scripting out hypothetical segments, analyzing competitor podcasts to find the perfect format.
They're trying to manufacture perfection in a vacuum.
Exactly. After 6 months of intense work, they have exactly 0 episodes recorded. The project is vaporware. Finally, Helge has this moment of harsh self-awareness. He was teaching a project management class at the time, lecturing his students that done is better than perfect, and he suddenly realizes he's being a massive hypocrite.
He was preaching kinetic energy, but practicing potential energy.
Yes. So that very night, he calls his audio team into their tiny rented office space. This office happens to be right next to Danforth Park in Taipei. If you've been there, you know it is incredibly noisy.
Yeah, tons of activity.
There's heavy traffic, people exercising to loud music, sirens going by. One of the audio engineers looks at him and says, "Helge, we don't have a studio mic set up yet. We can't record." Helge reaches into his pocket, pulls out his iPhone, plunks it on the table and says, "This is the microphone."
And he just hits record and starts talking. No script, no outline, no music theme. He's just riffs for 10 minutes about his experiences with parenting, which had absolutely nothing to do with their 6-month business plan.
The team is staring at him like he has lost his mind. When he finishes his rant, he points to the tech guy and says, "Upload it." The guy is stammering. "Upload it where? We don't even have an RSS feed or a hosting platform set up, and the audio quality is garbage. You can literally hear an ambulance siren in the background."
And Helge's response is just the ultimate cure for perfectionism. He looks at the guy and says, "Who cares? Nobody is listening anyway."
It is so brutally true. We all suffer from this ego-driven spotlight effect.
Yeah.
We have this delusion that the whole world is holding its breath, waiting for our grand debut, ready to heavily critique our font choice.
They aren't. They're busy worrying about their own lives.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Helge forces the tech guy to look up a YouTube tutorial on how to upload a podcast, and they get it live on Spotify that exact night, episode 1. The audio is terrible, it's totally off topic, and it is completely unpolished. But it was done. It existed in the real world.
The mantra he extracts from this experience is brilliant. Record reality.
Record reality.
Don't try to manufacture a sterile, highly produced perfection that doesn't exist yet. Just capture the reality of where you are right now, flaws and all. Why is this so critical? Because if you never launch, you never get feedback from the market.
Right.
If you don't get feedback, you cannot iterate. And if you cannot iterate, you cannot improve. That terrible, noisy first episode was the necessary data point that allowed them to figure out how to make episode 2 slightly better and episode 20 significantly better. You cannot steer a parked car.
Done is better than perfect. We hear it all the time, but seeing it applied like that is powerful. However, taking action is really only half the battle. The second story Helge tells takes us a crucial step further. It's not just about wildly taking action, it's about making sure your action is actually aimed at the right target.
This is where we differentiate between blind effort and strategic judgment.
Right. So go back in time.
Uh.
Hauge is a young college student. His father has recently passed away. His family's money is incredibly tight, and he is desperate to earn cash to help out.
A lot of pressure on him.
A friend tells him he should get a job singing at a local restaurant lounge. He auditions, gets the gig, and is thrilled to be getting paid 160 NTD an hour.
Which was a very decent wage for a student at the time. But because of his situation, he feels an immense sense of obligation. He wants to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that he is worth that money.
Exactly. And he makes a very common, very flawed assumption. He assumes that the way to prove his value is through relentless, brute force effort.
Okay, so what does he do?
He calculates the math in his head. If I sing 16 songs in a single hour, my boss is only paying 10 NTD per song. What an incredible bargain for the restaurant. So he gets up on that stage, grips the mic, puts his head down, and just belts out track after track. He's barely breathing between songs, sweating profusely, totally exhausting his vocal cords. He genuinely believes he is being the ultimate hard-working employee.
He is equating his own physical exhaustion with value creation. This is a trap that almost everyone in the corporate world falls into at some point.
So a few weeks later, he's chatting with one of the veteran singers at the lounge in the back room. Hauge proudly mentions his 16-song-an-hour marathon, expecting praise for his work ethic.
Yeah, he's waiting for a pat on the back.
The veteran singer just kind of chuckles, takes a sip of water, and says, "You know I make 600 NTD an hour, right?" Hauge's jaw drops. The math breaks his brain. He thinks, my God, if I am sweating this much and nearly passing out for 160, this veteran must be singing 60 songs an hour. He must be a literal machine.
So Hauge decides to stay late and watch the veteran's set, expecting to witness this hyperspeed vocal marathon.
And what does he actually see? The veteran strolls onto the stage, completely relaxed. Over the course of the full hour, he only sings 4 songs. 4.
Wait, 4? That's it?
That's it. The rest of the time, he is just chatting with the audience. He's making jokes, asking couples how long they've been married. If someone requests a song he doesn't know, he doesn't panic. He playfully hands them the mic and asks them to teach him the chorus.
Well, that's clever.
Right. And suddenly the whole room is laughing and singing along. If he finds out it's someone's birthday, he just sings a lazy rendition of Happy Birthday, and the crowd goes wild.
He isn't sweating. He isn't straining his voice. He is effortlessly commanding the energy of the room.
And the kicker. When the veteran steps off the stage at the end of the hour, Hauge looks at the tip jar on the piano. It is overflowing with an extra 1,000 NTD in cash.
Wow.
The veteran didn't just make his 600 base rate. He walked away with 1,600. 10 times what Hauge was making, while exerting maybe a tenth of the physical effort.
We really need to pause and dissect the mechanics of what is happening here, because this is the core of strategic judgment. Hauge asks the listener to deeply internalize this lesson. We wildly overestimate the value of brute force effort, and we vastly underestimate the value of high emotional intelligence and strategic alignment.
Hauge thought his job description was singing songs. The veteran knew his actual job was entertaining the customer.
Precisely. The veteran singer read the room. He understood that the people sitting in that dimly lit lounge didn't come to hear a human jukebox perfectly execute 16 tracks without taking a breath.
Yeah, if they wanted that, they could just put on a CD at home.
Exactly. They came to the lounge for connection. They came to be acknowledged, to laugh, to feel a part of a shared experience after a long day at work. The veteran was solving the customer's actual underlying problem, the need for a good time, while Hauge was just indiscriminately firing musical notes into the room like a machine gun.
I want to spend a minute applying this because the 4-song singer strategy is just so relevant to modern jobs. Let's say you are a mid-level manager at a corporation. The 16-song singer version of that manager is the one who sends 50 emails a day, CCs everyone on the team, creates overly complex spreadsheets, and proudly works until 8 p.m. every night.
Yes.
They are exhausted, they are sweating, but they are just creating noise. The 4-song manager is the one who sends 3 highly targeted emails, makes 1 crucial 5-minute phone call that clears a massive roadblock for their team, and leaves the office at 5 p.m.
Or think about a freelance graphic designer. The 16-song designer spends 10 agonizing hours tweaking the kerning on a font and adding subtle drop shadows that the client will never notice, trying to prove they work hard.
Right.
The 4-song designer spends 1 hour on a Zoom call, truly listening to the client's business goals, and then spends 2 hours executing a simple, bold design that perfectly solves the client's problem. Effort without strategic alignment is just organized fatigue.
Organized fatigue. That is a brutal phrase, but so accurate. So both of these stories, the podcast launch and the lounge singer, they highlight this necessity to step into the arena, launch imperfectly, and learn on the fly by observing what actually creates value.
Yes, you have to be in the game to play.
But this leads to a massive source of anxiety that the seminar addresses directly. What happens when we stand at a major crossroads in life and we genuinely don't know which path to take? We want to take action, but we're terrified of choosing the wrong thing.
This is the modern psychological terror known as opportunity cost, and it paralyzes incredibly smart people every single day.
Yes, the absolute paralysis of choice. You are deciding between path A and path B. Should I quit my stable corporate job and go back to grad school, or should I stay and try to grind for a promotion?
Big life question.
Should I move across the country for a new relationship, or stay in my hometown where my family is? We agonizingly weigh the pros and cons on whiteboards, terrified that if we choose path A, we will forever lose out on the magical, mythical, perfect benefits of path B.
The anxiety stems from a flawed foundational belief. We believe that there is one objectively right path predetermined by the universe, and if our calculations are slightly off, we will ruin our lives forever. But Hauge introduces a profound concept to dismantle this anxiety. He calls it the capacity trap.
The capacity trap. I think I understand it intuitively, but break down the mechanism of that for me.
The concept is essentially a mathematical and philosophical proof that you shouldn't worry so much. It states that it is an absolute impossibility to clearly map out the long-term consequences of a major life decision.
Because there are too many variables.
Well, yes, but deeper than that. Because you are attempting to use your limited, past-derived current abilities to map out your limitless, highly adaptable future potential.
Oh, wow. That's deep.
Think about the physics of time. The version of you who is agonizing over the decision is not the version of you who will actually experience the outcome. The very act of making a choice of walking down path A will force you to adapt.
That makes sense.
It will introduce you to new mentors, new failures, new skills, and new information that will fundamentally alter your brain chemistry and your capabilities. You cannot calculate the opportunity cost today because you do not possess the variables of tomorrow.
It's like trying to calculate exactly how much you will enjoy a 2-hour movie by only staring at the poster in the lobby.
Yeah.
You don't realize that watching the first 10 minutes of the film will completely change your understanding of the plot and the characters.
Oh,
You
no.
gotta step into the theater.
Exactly. And to combat this paralysis, Hauge shares a quote that serves as the ultimate psychological antidote. He says, "Don't try to make the right decision. Make the decision and then make it right."
Make the decision and then make it right. That completely shifts the locus of control. You are no longer a passive victim hoping you pick the lucky path. You are the active architect of the experience on whatever path you choose.
Going back to his messy podcast launch, when he hit record on that iPhone, he didn't know if a podcast about finance and parenting would find an audience. He couldn't calculate the opportunity cost of not starting a YouTube channel instead.
Right.
So what did he do? He didn't obsess over making the right choice. He set an arbitrary, action-oriented goal. I am going to record 100 episodes no matter what. He didn't know what the podcast would look like by the end. He only knew one absolute, undeniable certainty.
Which was?
The Hauge who recorded episode 100 would be a vastly different, more resilient, more articulate creator than the Hauge who awkwardly rambled into his phone on episode 1.
The decision wasn't about the podcast. The decision was just the vehicle for his own evolution. He made the choice to start, and then over the course of 100 messy, iterative episodes, he molded it into the right decision through sheer growth.
And if we pull back and look at the bigger picture, this completely reframes the entire concept of opportunity cost. The worst opportunity cost isn't choosing path A over path B and discovering that path A is really difficult.
No, the worst opportunity cost is choosing nothing. It is sitting at the crossroads for 5 years, staring at your pros and cons list, waiting for a feeling of absolute certainty that will never, ever arrive, while your strictly finite time just bleeds away into nothing.
There is a beautiful, piercing observation in the dialogue about this exact dynamic. Master Ru Hang and Hauge point out that pessimists are essentially always right.
What do you mean?
A pessimist looks at a difficult endeavor, starting a business, writing a book, and says, that will never work, the economy is bad, the market is saturated, the failure rate is too high. And because they believe that, they take no action. They stay parked in the garage.
Okay, I see.
And when they look around 5 years later and absolutely nothing has changed in their lives, they get to confidently say, "See, I told you so. The world is rigged. It's a good thing I didn't waste my time trying." They get the hollow, miserable victory of being correct in their own stagnation.
Yeah. But optimists are always moving forward, even when they are wrong.
Exactly.
An optimist might boldly choose path A, sprint down it, trip over a massive root, scrape their knee, and realize path A actually curves into a dead end. But instead of crying about it, they hack their way through the bushes to get over to path B, and they finally show up at the destination bruised, dirty, and exhausted.
But they show up.
But they show up, they gathered the kinetic energy, they updated their mental models, they stored the ability.
An optimist's opportunity cost is simply the tuition they pay for their own unavoidable growth. A pessimist's opportunity cost is their entire life.
We have covered an immense amount of philosophical and practical ground today. We have basically taken the traditional, socially accepted blueprint of success, crumpled it into a ball, and drawn a totally new map based on this incredible dialogue between a capitalist and a monk.
It is a map that requires continuous, active participation. You can't just passively hold wealth, you have to generate it.
So let's do a quick recap of the journey, just to lock it in. We started by completely shattering the illusion of money. By remembering the little girl with the $10 coin, we established that money is not the goal, it is just the cheap, renewable fuel we use for exchange.
Right. And then we climbed the true hierarchy of scarcity, realizing that time is strictly finite and unmanageable. But our attention, our actual present moment focus, is the undisputed peak of personal wealth. You cannot afford to be the person whose body is present, but whose soul is absent.
We mapped out the 3 business models of time, urging you to seek leverage so you aren't just selling your finite life by the hour until you die. And we defined the true destination, the 4-wheeled sports car of money, free time, good health, and good relationships. If one wheel is flat, the ride is ruined.
We redefined your net worth too. It is not your mortgage. It is not your bank account. It is you, your breathing self. And you aggressively increase that net worth by storing knowledge to update your mental models, storing ability by bravely taking messy action, and storing hearts by genuinely, unconditionally helping others.
And finally, we dismantled the twin demons of perfectionism and opportunity cost. We learned from the veteran lounge singer to favor high EQ strategic judgment over exhausting brute force, and we learned from the iPhone podcast launch to fiercely embrace the mantra that done is better than perfect. Stop trying to mathematically calculate the right decision and simply make a decision and then make it right through your own evolution.
Which leaves us with a final, provocative thought to send you off with. Near the end of the seminar, the discussion briefly touches on Thomas Edison.
Oh, the light bulb story.
Yeah, we all know the cultural legend. He supposedly failed 6,000 times before finally finding the right bamboo filament to make a working commercial light bulb. The story goes that a reporter asked him how it felt to fail 6,000 times in a row. Edison didn't accept the premise of the question. He didn't view it as failure.
He famously said, "I didn't fail. I successfully discovered 6,000 materials that don't make a light bulb."
It is the ultimate psychological reframe, and I want you, the listener, to apply that right now. Think about a decision you are currently agonizing over, a project you are delaying, a conversation you are avoiding. You are probably standing at that crossroads, entirely paralyzed because you are terrified of failing and looking foolish. But what if failure isn't the opposite of success?
This is the crucial shift. What if failure is just the necessary, unavoidable data collection process that builds the bridge to your success?
If you view it through that lens, you have to stop asking yourself, what if I fail? That is fundamentally the wrong question. It is a defensive question that keeps you permanently out of the arena.
The question you should be waking up and asking yourself is, what new data am I going to bravely collect today?
Because if you view every imperfect action, every messy launch, every rejected idea as a necessary data point, then even a mistake becomes a valuable deposit into your stored ability. It is no longer a setback, it is forward motion.
So, step out of the illusion.
Yeah.
Stop staring at the societal scoreboard. I want you to think back to that bank vault we talked about at the very beginning of this deep dive. The one with the heavy metal door, the stacks of gold bars, the quantifiable cold proof of riches. We look at that vault and we are culturally conditioned to think it contains security. We think it contains freedom.
But it doesn't.
No. The monk and the finance guru are standing side by side, pointing out a radical, liberating truth. If you lock yourself inside that vault just to count your gold, you are spending your strictly finite, unrecoverable time in the dark. You are entirely cut off from the health, the relationships, and the vibrant, messy, beautiful reality of the world outside. The vault isn't wealth. The vault is a prison. True wealth is having the keys to walk out into the sunlight, fully present, fully attentive, and fiercely capable of deciding exactly where you want to drive that four-wheeled sports car.
It's about being the active architect of your attention rather than just the passive manager of your cash.
We want to thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. We know how incredibly valuable your finite time is, and more importantly, we know how valuable your attention is. Thank you for choosing to invest both of them with us. Keep collecting that data, keep making those messy decisions right, and we will see you on the next deep dive.